I want to thank you, first of all, that it's so nice and informal to discuss it rather than making it as a formal presentation. What I do want to share, though, is if we go back to the term republic and revenue or revenue. People look at the word revenue. It has a connotation of income or some financial issue. When I look at it, I see simply a term that says you've been revenued. This is a venue. If we go outside, then we revenue ourselves outside. What they did was to get you into a republic. They revenued you out of the private into a public, and then you're in a republic. 1994 they went further, and they now say we're supposed to live in a democratic republic, which is an oxymoron. Because what is democratic? And people defend it heavily, and many blood has flown in this country based on that, so it's a sensitive issue, but I want to make it very clear. I live in my body, and my legal person resides in a constitutional republic. It's two different issues altogether. Yes. I do not, when someone says, where do you reside? It depends on where I am. Here I am. I live in this body. But if you expect me to say where I reside, I'm going to ask you a few questions. Because the first thing is you're making an assumption on my trust or my legal person because you want to address that legal person. I have liability, but you cannot address me. You have to speak to me. But you cannot speak to Divine Connections Ministries. You can only address Divine Connection Ministries. Because if I say, Divine Connection Ministries, speak up. It's nothing. But I can speak to you. But I cannot address you. But when you listen to companies and when you talk about employee-employer talk, they say, I'm addressing my employees. They're not talking about you. They're talking about the legal person that's registered on your system.
Taking responsibility.
Exactly. Or the obligation. Some people, a legal person has an obligation. A man has liability, commercial liability in terms of commerce. Excuse me. So it's important, and although we didn't give the background to it, I'm going to try and use this and build on it, that we eventually get to the point where we truly understand what it means. Because when you talk about commercial liability, that is the term that banks use how they define savings flow into an economy. Whether you have limited liability or whether you act with unlimited commercial liability. And I prefer now to act with unlimited commercial liability, because that means I have to put myself in a position where I take responsibility and accountability for every action that I do, especially when it involves the public. Whereas most others, people that work for companies, say, no, I don't want to carry the liability for the company. I want limited liability insurance. And that's why you have outsurance and all these other things that basically just subrogate your rights and defenses, and they make you pay a premium for what's yours in the first place. Why would you do it? Now that has a massive impact for the economy, and that's what I believe people need to prepare themselves for. Very soon. The system has already, I believe, the fulcrum has already changed or swung around. On 11 September 2008, that's when it happened already. So it's going to be soon that people recognize that we have to consider all things that we relate to commerce in a completely different perspective. Okay. Did that answer the question that you had then? The unlimited commercial liability. Here it is. Here it says, excuse me, persons must reside within another legal entity. Another legal entity, for instance, is Valhalla, which is a municipal area, a boundaried area, which is another legal entity. They cannot live anywhere. That is why you are asked if you are a resident of Canada or the United States or the United Kingdom or South Africa. Authorities are not asking you, the living man or woman, if you live in the country. They are asking if you are the legal person residing who has the right to do business or work within their corporation or within their jurisdiction. And that's the things that we need to determine. We need to consider that. Now, in terms of solutions, I'm just going to read what I've put in here. It says, only by realizing and discerning who we really are. And when I started with this research, when my mentor challenged me and said, you need to figure out who you are, I thought, what are you talking about? I know who I am. But I didn't. I didn't know at that time what I know now. It's different. You change. And as you make a distinction between yourself and that legal person, the further it goes away, the easier it becomes to deal with these issues in a basis where it doesn't create anxiety, or you feel completely swamped, or where you feel it's hopeless to any salvation. We really are. We are powerful spiritual beings with unlimited creative potential created by God, our Creator. So can we break the first invisible chain keeping us from freedom? Just break that illusion.
Yes.
The moment you break that illusion, it's instant. You never ever look back and say, I wonder, it's gone, it's over. I'm not this piece of paper. There's the piece of paper, and here's myself. And that's all we need to do. But the banks confuse this paper and they say it's you. And they say you are this paper, and it's not true. And the sooner they figure it out and understand it themselves, the better. And you can declare your rights and stand upon them as a sovereign man or woman by filing, and that's what I do. I file a notice of understanding and intent and claim of right whenever I deal with them, against any government official or principality making any claims against you. You drive along the highway and the official stops you and says, may I see your license please? My first question is, who are you? Are you a peace officer or are you a law enforcement officer? No, I'm a peace officer, sir. So, well, excuse me, but did I breach the peace? Why did you pull me off? I was minding my own business, but you pulled me off, you asked me for my license. Oh, it's just general duties. Well, I'm not interested in your general duties. I'm interested in your specific duty as a peace officer, and I'm asking you now, did I breach the peace? If I did not, am I free to go, please? Thank you. And I go off. But we immediately fill in, oh, yes, sure, there's my license. So what you do is you basically jump literally into their jurisdiction, you submit to it through anger or fear, or whatever the case might be, and there you are, you submit them. So,
excuse me, if it's a law officer of the law, and then
still the same, unless you have broken a law.
Yes.
And unless you committed a common law crime of hurting someone or injuring someone or killing somebody, they have no business with you.
Yes.
None whatsoever.
Yes.
But we've allowed these regulations and rules and regulations to creep into our lives based on this legal entity or this legal person, and we accept it willingly or unwittingly. Your own notices and claims should be tailored to suit your own situations, and that's why it's not a cookie cutter situation where my notice of understanding, intent and claim of right is not necessarily yours. I can give you guidelines, and that's what I'm trying to do, is to create a system by which we can have some tools like paintbrushes where you can paint something like this, artistic expression of something, but it should be yours. You should understand where it comes from. Now, standing upon your sovereignty in court and winning is factual, but you must not fall for their name game. And that's what they do. They say, for the record, state your name and your birth date.
Give yourself to them.
Now, yes, now let's consider that for a moment. Can you, with 100% certainty, tell me that you were born on the day that they claim you were born? Can you do that? No, neither can I. When I crawled out of my mother's birth canal, I couldn't read a calendar. So I cannot say that I was born on the 30th of November 1959. There could have been a problem. There could have been a mistake. But when you go into a court and they say, state for the record your name and birth date, and they imply that you cannot give anything but the truth, the whole truth and nothing but the truth, and you do, you've just lied under oath. Now you're an unreliable witness. And lawyers sneer at that. They say, nah, it's not what it is. I have personal experience of that. I'm not going to go into it today. But I saw how that happened. I saw how someone who was not guilty of anything was convicted and treated as an unreliable witness and fined £42,000 for something he did not do because he did it in good faith. When they said to him, do you have an issue with the oath? He said no. They said, state your name and your birth date, and he did. And they literally slaughtered him.
Sure.
So no one must come with that argument and tell me I don't know what I was present. And when I went into court and presented myself, I didn't do the same, I did something else. But the judge jumped up and she ran out of the courtroom. Hello? She ran away because I made it clear that I am sovereign and that I'm not standing under the rules and regulations. So the best solution to win against the deceptive and corrupt courts is never to go to court in the first place or play their fixed game at all. Don't play their game.
Exactly.
It's not necessary.
Yes.
If someone tries to use a court order against you, make sure it's signed by a judge or it is invalid. Most court orders aren't actually signed, and officials are using unsigned court orders as a confident trick to gain your consent. Now all these documents, look here, here's an ABSA document. Yours sincerely, manager. Excuse me, who's the manager?
He's the
Yeah.
Don't put its name there. No name.
No name.
Yeah.
Manager, in capital letters. There is bestuurder normally written, but look at there. Geachte, normal grammar. Capital letters, Pastoor Roos.
So
Who are they referring
you are
to?
a victim of the system.
Yes.
Got you.
No rights at all.
Now, if you send me, and we'll get into that later with the commercial instruments, once we look at, because this is to me the ground laying introduction to get eventually into commercial instruments, the processes of commerce, and how we can, first of all, from a due diligence perspective, say, well, this document, is this truly a commercial instrument? Secondly, is it complete or is it incoherent or is it defective? And if so, what is the implications for yourself? That's a nice part of it. Is that we are now just doing a due diligence and we're following an administrative process and we're putting someone else who hides behind the term manager and say, hello, who are you really?
Yeah.
And then deal with that person with their commercial liability and their obligations for us to settle our accounts as sovereigns, not as the slaves. And that's a relief. I tell you, it's a relief that you can't. Well, I don't have words to express it. Really, it's something that
It's a freedom that you cannot express.
you cannot even start to explain it or to bring it through. Let's just look at the term attorney. In the most general sense, this term denotes an agent or substitute or one who is appointed and authorized. Appointed and authorized, not or. To act in the place or stead of another. An agent or one acting on behalf of another. In the most common usage, however, unless a contrary meaning is clearly intended, this terms mean attorney at law, lawyer or counsellor at law. Now I'm going to make a statement. All lawyers are attorneys. Sorry, I always confuse myself. All lawyers are attorneys, but all attorneys are not lawyers. Why do I say that? Because you have attorneys at law. Person admitted to practice law in his respective state and authorized to perform both civil and criminal legal functions for clients, including drafting of legal documents, giving of legal advice, and representing such before courts, administrative agencies, boards, etc. Now, I said earlier, we don't need to go to court because we're going to act in our capacity as attorney in fact. That means, listen to the definition, attorney in fact is a private attorney authorized by another. And they don't define further what another. So it can be a private attorney authorized by another private attorney to act in his place. And it's private. So we're not dealing with these other shenanigans that they're talking about. In his place instead, either for some particular purpose as to do a particular act. When someone represents you, they don't necessarily do a specific act, but then they say, well, I acted on my client's instructions. Come on. They're the ones that so-called give you legal advice. They say, we suggest you do that, and you say, all right, let's do that. That's not instruction, that's following a lead. As to do a particular act, or for the transaction of business in general, comma, not of a legal character. Not of a legal character. This authority is conferred by an instrument in writing called a letter of attorney, or more commonly a power of attorney. So when you go to a public lawyer or an attorney, then you sign your power of attorney away to them, and you cease to exist as a private attorney in fact, and now someone represents you as an attorney of record or as an attorney at law. And now they sleeve you or they fleece you because you are guilty of an implied contract in law. All those little terms have a meaning, and we need to pull them back onto the fact that we act in private, on land, under natural law, under common law, as attorney in fact, as a substitute even for someone else to settle something, specific purpose, particular purpose, to settle our accounts. We are not subject to taxation any longer. We are exempt, and we will do a set-off on all these accounts, and we will do a rehabilitation of this bankruptcy that was established in 1920. That's all it's about. It's about rehabilitation of a bankruptcy.